Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Vegas 77, Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva, and this is going to be my full card predictions. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you a quick breakdown and prediction. This isn't the greatest card by any means, especially when you look back at UFC 290, but I think there are some fights on this card worth watching. Starting off with the first fight of the night, Ashlee Smith versus Ailin Perez. This is a super low-level matchup. I mean, Ashlee Smith, she has not fought in 2.5 years. I think she had a suspension for something. I can't remember. She tested positive or something along those lines. She's coming in on a 2-fight losing streak. She's 36 years old. She's fighting Ailin Perez, who's coming off that loss to Stephanie Egger, where Stephanie Egger eventually finished her via rear naked choke. This is a fight that I'm not super interested in. I don't think it's particularly high level. But I do think that Perez's grappling leaves a lot to be desired. I think her striking is all right. And I do, wonder about Ashlee Smith coming off a 2.5-year layoff. She hasn't won a fight in 5 years. Her last win was against Bec Rawlins 5 years ago, over 5 years ago. But I'm going Ashlee Smith by decision. I think she has the grappling to get it done in this matchup. I think she'll be able to take her down, control her on the ground, and eke out a decision, maybe a 29-28 decision. Moving up on the card, we have Carl Deaton versus Alex Munoz. This is another matchup that isn't particularly great, but I think this should be a relatively exciting matchup while it lasts. I mean, this is a matchup between two guys who aren't the upper echelon. They're not probably ever going to be the upper echelon. In Carl Deaton's last fight, he got mauled by Joe Solecki, finished by submission. Munoz in his last fight was over 2 years ago against Luis Pena. Fight before that, he lost to Nasrat Haqparast. Hasn't won a fight in 3 years and 8 months. Has never won in the UFC. Both guys are 33 years old. So both guys are getting up there in age. I mean, this card, oh my goodness. Deaton has decent striking. He has okay takedown defense. Like early against Joe Solecki, he was able to defend some takedowns. Munoz wants to grapple, doesn't have the best striking, has horrible stand-up really, and is probably just going to shoot takedowns nonstop in this fight. I wonder about Deaton's cardio in this matchup, but I'm going to go Carl Deaton via decision. I think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, and I think he's way better on the feet, even though he's not particularly elite on the feet. I'm going Carl Deaton via 29-28 decision. Moving up on the card, we have Tyson Nam versus Azat Maksum. This is actually an interesting matchup. I wonder how Azat is going to eventually look in the UFC. He's looked pretty good. He's 16-0. He's undefeated. This is the first real interesting fight on the card that I think is worth watching. Azat has 11 of 16 wins by finish. He's an excellent grappler, has really good BJJ. Tyson Nam, I mean, he's getting up there in age. He's 39 years old. He's coming off that loss against Bruno Silva. The fight before that, he KO'd Ode Osborne. A lot of people weren't expecting that. Tyson Nam, this is basically striker versus grappler. Tyson Nam has very good striking, lackluster grappling, got submitted in his last fight. For my official prediction, I'm going Azat Maksum via second round submission. I'm going to say he gets it done via rear naked choke. I don't think Tyson Nam will be able to keep it standing. Azat is going to constantly spam takedowns left and right, look for the takedowns, find the takedowns. He's very good on top. He scrambles well when his opponent's trying to scramble and try to get up. He scrambles very well with them and stays on top. So I think Azat will be able to get him down, hold him down in the scrambles. Eventually he'll find the back of Tyson Nam and he will eventually find a submission. Moving up on the card, we have Genaro Valdez versus Evan Elder. Valdez coming in on 2-fight losing streak. It's crazy. Everyone fighting on this card is coming off a loss. Valdez is coming off a losing streak. He lost his last fight against Nathan Levy. Got out-grappled in that fight. Before that, he got KO'd by Matt Frivola. Not a horrible loss to have. Evan Elder coming off a loss to Nazim Sadykhov and Preston Parsons, who I'm not even sure is even in the UFC anymore. This is a matchup, honestly. I don't want to say it's striker versus grappler. Valdez wants to strike. Valdez is looking to land combinations, looking to strike nonstop. He's super wild, has fast hands. He got hurt badly multiple times against Matt Frivola. He takes a lot of damage. He took damage in the Nathan Levy fight, too. I think he got hurt in that fight as well. The Matt Frivola fight, he got dropped multiple times by body shots, got rocked multiple times, was able to survive for a bit, but then eventually gets finished by Matt Frivola on the ground. His last win was on the Contender Series almost 2 years ago. And then you have Evan Elder, who had a close fight with Nazim Sadykhov in his last fight. And, you know, the only reason that fight got stopped was because he got kneed and got a cut above the eyebrow that was really nasty in the 3rd round that it got stopped. Fight before that, he fought to a decision, lost in a decision, never won in the UFC, fought questionable competition outside the UFC. 9-16 was his last win. That's his opponent's, his last win, his opponent's record is 9-16. That's crazy to me. You have Valdez, slight reach advantage. You have Elder, slight height advantage. I think what this comes down to is I think Elder has a little bit better grappling and overall game. I could see Valdez pulling this out. I could see Valdez chinning Elder. I think he has way better striking than Elder. I think he has fast hands. I think he's an absolute maniac. There's no quit in him. But I think Evan Elder will put it all together. He'll mix in the striking with the grappling. The fear of the takedown will set up the striking. And I'm going to go Evan Elder via decision. I almost picked finish because of how much damage Valdez has taken. But ultimately, I think Elder will just mix everything in and win via decision. Moving up on the card, we have Austin Lingo versus Melquizael Costa, I think is how you say it. Austin Lingo coming off that fight against Nate Landwehr where he got submitted. And honestly, when I was watching that fight and I was watching some of Austin Lingo's previous fights, he's like a poor man's Nate Landwehr. He's kind of durable. He likes to strike, has decent power. He's pretty durable, which I already said, actually, just realized that. His last win was almost 2 years ago against Luis Saldana. The fight before, I mean, the level of competition he's fought. He's been in the UFC for a while. He's been in the UFC for 3.5 years. Hasn't fought the best level of competition. He's only 29 years old, so there's still room to improve. Costa, I mean, he came in on short notice against Thiago Moises. I'm pretty sure that was short notice. And he actually looked decent on the feet. He was looking really fast on the feet, had good kicks, defended some takedowns early, but eventually just the grappling of Thiago Moises got to him, was able to get him down and control him. But I don't think Lingo is going to mix in the takedowns at all. Lingo wants to strike. He wants to mix in, you know, combinations and just wants to push forward and throw shots. And he has good volume, but then he starts to slow down. And I think Costa is just a better overall striker. And he has 13 of 19 wins by finish. So I am going with Costa via 1st round TKO. I think he's just a better striker. I think he's going to go out there. I think he's going to catch Lingo. I think he's going to honestly have like a highlight reel KO in this fight. And I think he's going to find the finish in the 1st round. Moving up on the card, Viktoriia Dudakova versus Istela Nunes. Another matchup. Again, not super pumped for this. Istela Nunes on a 3-fight losing streak. Dudakova 6-0, undefeated, coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. She won the fight. Honestly, I think she looked horrible. She just wants to grapple. This is a striker versus grappler matchup. Is Istela Nunes going to get out-grappled in this fight? She's coming off a loss against Yasmin Howergy, who just got KO'd brutally. But she hurt Howergy in their fight, in her last fight, and then eventually just succumbed to the pressure and volume of Howergy. Fight before that, lost to Sam Hughes, lost to Ariana Carnelosi via a rear naked choke. She's 30 years old. It just comes down to, can Nunes stuff the takedowns? Can Nunes stuff the takedowns in this fight? Dudakova's not a good grappler. She's not that good. I mean, that's primarily her game. But even on Dana White's Contender Series, at one point she was full mounted because, like, once she gets on top, she's okay. But, like, setting up the takedown, she's, like, you know, not doing it correctly. She doesn't have the technical ability. Half the time she ends up on her back and then scrambles, gets a leg, ends up on top. She has decent scrambles, doesn't have great cardio. I'm going to Istela Nunes via decision. I just think she has the better striking. I think she'll be able to thwart some of the takedown attempts. I think maybe Istela Nunes loses the 3rd round significantly, but I think ultimately, I think she'll be able to land the better shots on the feet, and I think that she just has good enough defensive takedown defense early, and good enough footwork and movement. She'll be able to get it done. I'm going to say like a 29-28 decision. I think there's going to be like a controversial, close fight where it could go either way, where maybe the 1st round she wins in the striking, 2nd round, 1st half she's winning the striking, then Dudakova gets her down, 2nd half of the 2nd round, doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Then the 3rd round, Nunes is kind of tired and gets out-grappled in the 3rd round. But I'm going to Istela Nunes via decision. Moving up on the card, this is the headliner of the prelims. We have Tucker Lutz versus Melsik Baghdasaryan. This is an interesting matchup. This is a very interesting matchup. I think Melsik is actually a really good fighter. Tucker Lutz coming off that loss against Daniel Pineda. I don't know why I said Danielle. Got finished via guillotine. Didn't look good in that fight. Looked slow in that fight. Before that, he lost to Pat Sabatini. So he's lost 2 in a row. Baghdasaryan's coming off that loss against Joshua Kulibau. he was actually arguably winning this fight. It was super competitive. Ended up getting caught while he was throwing a kick. He wasn't really hurt, but he was off balance. Went to scramble back to his feet, got rear naked choked by Joshua Culibao. When I look at this matchup, I see Melsik Baghdasaryan as a far superior striker. Good in and out movement, good kicks, and I just think Tucker Lutz, I just don't think he's even UFC quality, really, and I hate to say that, but I just think Tucker Lutz, you're going to see him kind of looking to get some takedowns, looking to clinch up. He has okay striking, but I just think Baghdasaryan is leaps and bounds ahead of him in the striking department. And I think Melsik Baghdasaryan is going to end up finishing, I'm going to say second round KO for Melsik Baghdasaryan. I think he's the far better striker, good in and out movement, much faster. Tucker Lutz kind of wades in with big overhooks and just looking for big shots, and then he's looking to clinch up. I think Baghdasaryan has good enough defensive grappling, and Lutz isn't that good with his offensive grappling that he'll be able to keep it standing. I think he'll win by kicking him from range and then land a big shot in the second round. I think he finishes him in the second round. Moving up on the card, the first fight on the main card, we have Terrance McKinney versus Nazim Sadykhov. Terrance McKinney coming off that loss against Ismail Bonfim, where he just got absolutely destroyed and then flying knee KO'd. You have Sadykhov coming off the win over Evan Elder, who's also fighting on this card. Super competitive fight, mixed in the grappling, mixed in the striking. Eventually got a knee that cut him and it was stopped due to doctor stoppage. Came off of Dana White's Contender Series before that, 29 years old. Has a reach disadvantage. I mean, Terrance McKinney has a 4.5 inch reach advantage. And I think Terrance McKinney was a bit overrated for a while, and that's why a lot of people were shocked by the Bonfim KO. But I think Terrance McKinney gets this done. Nazim gets caught on the feet, was getting caught on the feet by Evan Elder, eating big shots from Evan Elder. Evan Elder was able to out-grapple him at points in this fight. I think Terrance McKinney has very good striking. I think he has very good power in his hands. I think he's super explosive. I do worry about him gassing. You know, that's the worry in every single fight. But he had a super competitive fight with Drew Dober, almost finished Drew Dober on short notice. Finished Eric Gonzalez. He's just a finisher. And I think Terrance McKinney, the power in his hands will be the difference in this fight. I think he's going to KO Nazim Sadykhov. First round KO for Terrance McKinney. I think he gets it done. I think his hands are very fast. I think he's super explosive. And I don't think Sadykhov is technical enough to make McKinney pay like Bonfim was able to do. And I don't think Terrance McKinney, this is kind of a must win. He can't lose 2 fights in a row. He had a lot of hype. You know, people were talking about him versus Paddy Pimblett for a while there, which kind of would have made sense. But I think ultimately Sadykhov isn't well-rounded enough to get this done. I think Terrance McKinney could even mix in some of his wrestling to get it done. Moving up on the card, Ottman Azaitar versus Francisco Prado. Ottman Azaitar, I mean, this guy was looked at as a future contender for a while. He took 3 years off. I think he had injuries, and he was the one that got cut from the organization for a while, but then his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, got him back. He was like escaping the fighter hotel, and it was all that crazy debacle from a while ago. He returned 7 months ago against Matt Frevola and got brutally KO'd. Looked kind of stiff, looked like his timing was off a bit, probably because he was out for a while. Also, Matt Frevola is highly underrated. Francisco Prado has one fight in the UFC against Jamie Mullarkey. Got outstruck, out-grappled, has fast hands, has decent power. But, you know, I don't really think he's UFC level. I think he came in on short notice against Jamie Mullarkey, though. He's 21 years old, super young. Ottman Azaitar at one point was considered a future contender. He was like 29, 30 years old. Everyone was like, oh, you know, he could be a future contender in the division. He's knocking everybody dead, you know. He's a KO win over Kamala Worthy. Has a KO win over, I can't even pronounce that guy's name. But either way, came into the UFC the last couple years, you know, 4 years ago when he came into the UFC. People looked at him as an interesting prospect. I know he got brutally destroyed by Matt Frevola. I think he's going to come out in this fight and get it done. I'm going to go Ottman Azaitar second round KO. I still think he has excellent power. I still think he has decent striking or very good striking. I just think he came in after a long layoff, you know, had the ring rust, and I think Matt Frevola is better than a lot of people expected, and Matt Frevola got it done. And he was looking very competitive up until he got clipped with that big shot. So I think Azaitar gets it done. I think he has nasty power in his hands, nasty finishing ability, and I think he gets it done via second round KO or second round KO. He could get it done in the first round. I wanted to pick him first round, but I think he's going to take his time early. I think he's going to take his time. He knows he has to win this fight, and he doesn't want to rush in and eat a big shot from Francisco Prado. Moving up on the card, we have Norma Dumont versus Chelsea Chandler. What a barn burner this fight card is. I cannot wait for this one. I'm kidding. This is a horrible fight. Not super interested in it. It's going to be a decision for sure. I'm going Norma Dumont via decision. Chelsea Chandler didn't even look that good against Julia Stolorenko. She got taken down full mounted, but she was just bigger. Chelsea Chandler was just bigger and bullied her in the grappling and eventually finishes her. It was a statement win for her UFC debut, but I think Norma Dumont's a step up in competition. And Norma Dumont, this is a featherweight fight. I mean, the featherweight division, what is going on here? I didn't even realize the featherweight division still existed at this point. I thought Norma Dumont was probably fighting at 35, but maybe they're trying to resurrect it. Maybe I'm misinformed on Tapology. But I think Norma Dumont gets it done. I think it's a step up in competition. I think Norma Dumont will be able to keep it standing. Norma Dumont will not be bullied, and I think Norma Dumont has a striking advantage. Chelsea Chandler's striking is literal garbage. It is literal garbage. Now, she does press forward. She does throw shots. She does look to mix in the grappling. I don't think she's going to out-grapple Norma Dumont in this fight. I think Norma Dumont gets it done with her striking. Very boring fight. Wins via decision. Moving up on the card, Walt Harris versus Josh Parisian. I know you guys are hoping to see some Josh Parisian action in this fight. Walt Harris on a 3-fight losing streak. Hasn't won a fight in almost 4 years. Hasn't won since he beat Alexei Oleinik. He's 40 years old. Josh Parisian lost his last fight against Jamal Porges, I think is how you pronounce his name. Last win was about a year ago against Alan Badeau. Lost to Dontel Mays. He's just trading wins and losses. Walt Harris, I'm surprised he's still in the UFC. I think it's just because the heavyweight division isn't that good. But I'm going Walt Harris, second round KO. Walt Harris came close to finishing Alistair Overeem. I think he might have hurt Volkov in their fight, or it was Tabora, I can't remember. Fighting decent competition. Marcin Tabora, Alexander Volkov, and Alistair Overeem. I don't think any of those guys are on the, or I don't think Josh Parisian is on the level of any of those guys. And Josh Parisian is just kind of this well-rounded fighter. I don't even know. He's got a mixed bag of skills is a better way to say it, because I don't even think he's that good in any particular way. And I just think Walt Harris is very explosive, has good power, has good wrestling, very athletic. In the heavyweight division, I think half the time just having some okay cardio. And Walt Harris has gassed himself out throwing a lot of shots in previous fights. I don't think he does it in this fight. I think he picks his shots, and I think he finds a second round KO over Josh Parisian. Moving up on the card, now I would call this the co-main event. Right now on the UFC's website, it is the co-main event. But there was another fight that was announced that I'm going to make the co-main event because I think it will be. So moving up on the card, we're going to talk about Jack Della Maddalena versus his new opponent in a second. But moving up on the card, Albert Duraev versus Jung Young Park. This is actually a fun fight. I like this fight. Albert Duraev, coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, didn't look that great against Joaquin Buckley last year. Got stopped via doctor stoppage, but he was getting beat up in that fight. Joaquin Buckley was stuffing the takedowns. His last fight was against Chidi Njokuani. Was doing well on the feet. It was a close fight. The first round he clearly won, clearly out-grappled him. Then the second round started to slow down, wasn't able to find the takedowns. Chidi Njokuani arguably won the second round. Then the third round, he mixed back in the grappling. It was a split decision. I remember thinking it could have went either way. But Albert Duraev definitely going to look to use his wrestling in this fight. Jung Young Park used his wrestling in his last fight against Dennis Tudaluan. Won via rear naked choke. Fight before that, rear naked choke against Joseph Holmes. Fight before that, decision win over Eric Anders. Last loss was to Gregory Rodriguez. I am going with Albert Duraev via decision. I think he'll be able to out-grapple Jung Young Park. I think he'll be able to take him down, control him, beat him up on the ground. I think Duraev is good enough on the feet where if it's on the feet, he'll land some kicks. He has some decent kicks. I think he'll be able to go out there, mix in the striking with the grappling. Jung Young Park's going to be worried about the grappling, so he's not going to be able to let his hands go as much. And I think Duraev, this is going to be like a, Duraev statement win here. He's just going to take him down, just out-grapple him for 3 rounds. I'm going Albert Duraev via, I'm going to say 30-27 decision. I think he's going to out-grapple him every single round. I think there's maybe a chance that Duraev could maybe get finished in like a 3rd round as he slows down, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Jung Young Park is not going to offer enough resistance to really gas out Duraev, similar to how the Chidi Njokuani was able to. And he didn't really completely gas in that fight. So I'm going Duraev via decision. Moving up on the card to what I believe will be the co-main event, Jack Della Maddalena versus Belsi Hafez. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. He's making his UFC debut on short notice against Jack Della Maddalena. I'm assuming they're putting this as the co-main event. They don't have it on the website yet. I'm going Jack Della Maddalena, 1st round KO. I mean, I don't know if anybody's picking anything different. I think he absolutely smokes him badly. This guy is 8-3. The last guy he beat was 15-5, so not horrible. The guy before that Anthony Ivy went to split decision with him, 8-5. Lost to Evan Cutts, who's 11-4. So he's not like fighting the worst competition ever. But coming in on short notice against Jack Della Maddalena, who had a full camp because he was supposed to fight at UFC 290, Jack Della Maddalena is going to go out there and absolutely smoke him in this fight. And I think Jack Della Maddalena finishes him in the first 2 minutes. I think in the first 2 minutes, Jack Della Maddalena goes out there and absolutely destroys him, uses his boxing, uses his kicks. Maybe he hurts him badly and looks for a submission like he did against Randy Brown in his last fight. But, you know, this is disappointing. I'm happy he's getting a fight because he flew all the way to Vegas. But at the same time, I just wish they rebooked the Sean Brady fight for down the line, maybe UFC 293. And hopefully if he wins this fight, he comes out unscathed. Hopefully they rebook that. But I think Jack Della Maddalena is going to absolutely steamroll this guy in the co-main event. First round KO, Jack Della Maddalena. Moving on to the main event, we have Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva. What a main event. This is way better than UFC 290's main event. Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva. This has title implications. And I'm not kidding. This has title implications. Winner of this fight is going to be in a good position to fight for the women's bantamweight title now that Amanda Nunes has retired. Holly Holm, you know, on a one-fight winning streak. She lost a fight before that against Ketlin Vieira where she just kind of clinched up with her whole time. And Holly Holm is 41 years old, but somehow she's still able to get it done. She's still fighting at a high level for the women's bantamweight division. She's mixing in the grappling as well. She's mixing in the clinch work. She was mixing it in her last fight against Yana Santos. Absolutely dominated her in the grappling, beat her up, won her via decision. Mayra Bueno Silva, she's looking to take you down. She's looking to finish you via submission. She's looking to just control you. She's coming into this fight. She's finished her last two fights via submission, knee bar and an arm bar. But look who she's fighting. Lena Landsberg, who's 10-7, and Stephanie Egger. The Stephanie Egger wins, okay. But ultimately in this fight, I don't think Mayra Bueno Silva is going to be able to get Holly Holm down. And if she's not able to get her down, I think Holly Holm will just be able to outstrike her on the feet. I think Holly Holm's footwork, she just circles around the cage, just counter-striking. I don't think Bueno Silva is going to be able to catch up to her. And I just see Holly Holm outstriking her to a decision. When's the last time Holly Holm's had a finish? Betch Koheda? You know, I don't think she's going to finish her. And maybe if Mayra Bueno Silva can get her down, I think Bueno Silva could find a submission against Holly Holm. But it's a matter of getting her down. Holly Holm is so athletic. And the footwork, she's constantly moving. It's at the apex, so the smaller cage favors Bueno Silva. But even at 41 years old, and there's going to be a drop-off for Holly Holm eventually, but I don't think it's going to be this fight. I think Mayra Bueno Silva is just going to be spamming takedowns. The takedowns are going to be getting stuffed. I think Holly Holm's going to be outstriking her at range, pumping the jab, throwing some kicks. I think there'll be some clinch work, but Holly Holm's very strong in the clinch. So even in those positions, I think Bueno Silva is going to have to create chaos in this fight and try to get Holly Holm down. And if she does, she could get a little crazy. She could get a little wild. And maybe Holly Holm gets like a head kick KO, similar to the Betch Koheda or the Holly Holm finish. But unless she does that, I don't see Holly Holm getting a finish. I think this is going to be kind of a boring main event where you see Holly Holm just kind of circle around and use her footwork to win a decision against Mayra Bueno Silva. Unless Bueno Silva can get her down and submit her, I just don't see how she wins on the feet. Her striking isn't that good. It does not compare to the kickboxing background of Holly Holm. So I'm going Holly Holm via decision. And that's it. That's the full card. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I can't wait for this card. I'm so excited. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.